A very good afternoon to you, and I'd like to welcome you to this special presentation on vvoice.com. This is a presentation about detoxification. As you're aware, we're living in a world today where there's a lot of diseases, a lot of deaths, and so many negative things are happening to people today. If we compare what has been happening in the ancient time, we could see that there were cases of epidemics and cases of plagues and all kinds of things happening. But throughout all of these things, people have been looking for ways and means by which they can take care of their health, become healthier individuals, they can become better at what they do without having to suffer from all of these things that are happening in their environment. Today, we want to talk about the concept of detoxification, but we want to look at it in a natural way, the natural method of detoxification. I'm Dr. Kris Ramdhani, and I'm going to be your host for this program. I want you to sit back and relax, and just let's talk about this concept of detoxification. In our modern world today, we see a lot of infomercials, lots of things happening on the internet, lots of things on televisions, and so many other areas. People chat with each other, they talk about what they can do to make their bodies healthier. We see so many kinds of strategies and techniques that are out there to make our system healthier. So we see a lot of things happening when it comes to detoxification. So many products are in the environment, and people are looking for ways and means by which they can become healthier. The big question is, what really is health? That's the question that we want to ask at this point in time. If we look at the old definition for health, we'll see health is the absence of disease. That really is a very simple way of putting this thing. It's an easy thing to remember, of course, but when we look at what really is happening in the modern world today, we need to add something a little more to just than the mere absence of disease. So the World Health Organization has come up with something of a little different nature. They add things pertaining to the social aspects of people. People must be able to function, not just be able to refrain from having diseases or not having diseases. They should be able to function in their environments. They should be able to function in a society. They should be able to take care of their families and earn. One should go beyond simply talking about the absence of diseases. So health is much more than that. But here's another question for you. We want to know, how do you recognize when somebody is healthy? Now, that's a very important question. You can watch someone and you can tell if this person is having some kind of difficulty. Can you do that? Well, people have been trying that, of course, because you will watch an individual and say, boy, you're looking good today. Or you're looking like you're glowing. You're looking like you're spreading out an energy, and you seem to be having quite a burst of energy. So people sometimes examine the way people are looking, the way people are acting, the way people are feeling. Even yourself, you look at yourself sometimes and you will know, are you having this right amount of energy? Is that what is health all about? Now, there are a couple of things that you can look at, couple of things that you can check, but it's not foolproof in the sense that you can just watch these things and you can say, well, you're healthy or you're unhealthy. Take, for example, when you wake up in the morning and you're getting off the bed, and this is what happens to a lot of people, right? They feel very sluggish. They just can't get off the bed. They want to go for another hour. So they will say to themselves, let's just go for another hour. I'm going to sleep a little bit more. Even though the sun has risen, and that, in my estimation, is not a good thing when you're on the bed, but people sometimes just keep going and going. Why? Because they feel sluggish. Things are not well. And when they get up, they're having great stiffness in the muscles. Things don't seem to work out too well when they go to the bathroom too. Constipation steps in. So energy is decreased, sluggishness is there, they just don't feel right. When you talk to them, they snap at you. They just snap at you because there are things happening in their system. And we're not talking here about people having these special kinds of diseases when they're having these problems, like nervous disorders and so on. I'm not talking about those kinds of situations. I'm talking about people generally having these dispositions. They get up sluggish, lack of energy, and so many negative things are happening to them. Even their relationships seem to be having issues. Their sexual energy is gone down. And if you watch these things happening to individuals, you will see weight management is a problem. The way they feel, they don't want to just do anything. They're just lethargic, just lazy, like, and they don't have this kind of energy. They're not glowing, as you would say. And these are some of the little symptoms that you can look at and you can tell right away that something's not right here. Something is wrong. So these are little things that one can look at. But remember, it is not foolproof in the sense that you can just watch somebody and say, this is a healthy individual. You have to do your test, various tests, medical tests, to make sure that you're healthy or not. And so that brings us to an important concept of what people have been talking about, to an large quantity of people have been talking about this. It's widespread in the world today, and it has to do with what we call self-detoxification. So the big question is, people are jumping into various streams of detoxification, trying out different methods, and they want to clean themselves out from the toxins that are in their systems. So they say a clean body and mind are prerequisites for a healthy life. These things are necessary and important for making yourself healthy. But let's look at detoxification a little more seriously and see if there is something that we can try to understand, come to grips with. You see, detoxification is a medical procedure. It is something that the doctor is supposed to do with you. And they do have some procedures in the hospitals where the doctor will give you certain kinds of medication. They would do certain kinds of things in order to help to cleanse the system out. Even to some extent, we can classify colonoscopy and those kind of things can be seen in some respect as cleaning your system out. Although they're using it for a number of different purposes, it does offer some kind of cleansing to the intestinal tract. So we do see some kind of these things happening in the hospital. But in today's world, people are all over the place looking on the internet, checking out with friends and so many other people, and they're coming up with what we call self-detoxification. Try it at home, they say. This is something that is going to make things work. So why do we want to detox? You see, today, we have a lot of things happening in the environment out there. We have pollutants, a number of chemicals present in the air. It's present in the water. It's present in the food that we consume. So all these things are getting into our system, and they're having a hard time to come out of the system. Some of it is going to be passed out, as we'll talk about in a short while. But a lot of these things have to be given, the body has to be given some kind of assistance to try to get rid of these substances from your system. So detoxification, they're saying, is a necessary process, even the self-detoxification. You know something? People sometimes jump into things that they are not quite aware of, and they put themselves in trouble. Because you just simply can't go on the internet and just read a little piece of thing and says, oh, I think this is the right thing for me. I just need this here. You need guidance. But let me tell you, the body has its own detoxification system. There is a skin, right? We have the skin, we have the kidneys, we have the immunity system, we have the intestinal tract, and other things present in our body. We have systems in the body that will help in detoxification. Take the skin, for example. When you sweat, you pass out some of the impurities that are present in your blood system. When you pass the feces out, you pass out some of the toxins, some of the chemicals, some of the things in the food that you have eaten. Some of these things will pass out into your system. Excess acid, for example, some of these will pass out into your system. So we see some kind of things happening with the body, but many of the doctors will argue that the human body is bogged down with the chemicals that are so prevalent, even things in paint. the things in the atmosphere which you're breathing is coming into the lungs and is causing so many difficulties. The food that you're eating has pollutants inside of it. So many things are happening right around your environment. And you know, some kinds of medical practices says even your thought, your thinking can bring on toxins into your system. So there are many things that are happening, and there is argument here for trying to assist the body, even though it has so many mechanisms, so many techniques and strategies by which it can bring these chemicals to a balance and get it out of your system, of course, and bring the body back into a balance. These are important arguments to say that we need to assist the body, because today the body is pretty bogged down with these chemicals. So we want to help the body in some respect or the other. We want to look at the way in which we can improve our health, make things better. These are some of the objectives of detoxification. Getting rid of toxin, make your energy a little higher, manage the weight, tend to make you a little more energetic. These are some of the concepts that have been given in relation to making yourself a little healthier and getting rid of the toxins from your body. So they're saying these are some of the reasons by which we need to understand, which we need to know. We need to put those behind our mind, in our thoughts, so that we can go through the process of detoxification. So these are some of the reasons as to why we detox. But let me caution you here, because you need to understand, as I said earlier on, detoxification is a medical process, really. And you will see as I continue that there are some difficulties that people are not talking about when it comes to the various methods of detoxification. So one of the best things I would say is you need to check with your doctor to see what is happening. In the meantime, in a simplistic way, if you have been experiencing some of the things that I've been talking about, perhaps you need to go through the process of a simple form of detoxification. But it's always wise to check with the doctor, because these are important considerations. I want to introduce to you an old system that developed 5,000 years ago or more in the land of India. Ayurveda is described as a science of life. It is both a preventative procedure, method, system of medicine, as well as a curative one, a treatment one. So it deals both with prevention and treatment. It is sometimes referred to as traditional Indian medicine. In traditional Indian medicine, or Ayurveda, it has roots to these ancient texts. For example, it has roots to the Vedas. But over the centuries, Ayurveda has developed into a remarkable system of trying to bring the body in a state of balance. Similar to Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda talks about balance. Chinese medicine talks about balance. Ayurveda talks about balance. So these systems are all directed towards trying to bring the body into a state of balance. So Ayurveda has important things to offer when it comes to the process of detoxification. Now, an Ayurvedic doctor or a traditional medical doctor has the know-how about tongue diagnosis, looking at your tongue, diagnosing and trying to find out what's happening in your system. They can look at your eyes and tell a lot of things about your body. They can look at even your medical reports, as a matter of fact, and talk a lot about what's going on in your system. They have a remarkable method of diagnosing the pulse. You know, the doctors will take the pulse, they take like for 15 seconds, multiply it by 4, and they will get a number of beats per minute. Well, the Ayurvedic practitioner can determine what's happening inside of the organs. What's going on in the liver, for example, through the pulse diagnosis. They can do that through the tongue diagnosis. And this is a similar practice that is used in traditional Chinese medicine. So I'm just touching on it briefly, but I also want to tell you that Ayurveda has a remarkable system of detoxification. So it helps to a very great extent in terms of detoxifying your system. And here is some interesting points about it. First, it says detoxification is about trying to bring your body into a state of balance. You see, when you have these toxins in your system, they go deep down inside. There are some that will remain right in the intestine, some that you can get rid of quite easily. But there are some of them that go deep down into the microchannels. These are the small channels in your system that are not picked up by the microscope. These are sometimes described in this system of medicine as subtle channels, very, very tiny, and yet very, very important for proper health. You see what happens? The toxins can go into these subtle channels and clog them up. Then they can harden. And just like traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda talks about the movement of energy within your system. So when it talks about the movement of energy, and you have it talking about also these microchannels, energy has to move within these microchannels. So if the energy cannot move properly within these microchannels because they are clogged up, you're going to have a problem on your system. It will eventually, according to the principles of Ayurveda, it says there are 6 stages in the formation of a disease. And gradually things are going to change in these microchannels and elsewhere in your body. And you're going to end up with a problem on your hand. The process of detoxification is directed towards getting rid of simple toxins and more toxic ones that are extremely complex to get rid of. One last thing I want to point out here before we look at the additional points about Ayurveda is that Ayurveda talks about 3 special energies that make up our system. They call these the doshas. We have Vata dosha, Pitta dosha, and Kapha dosha. These are the 3 doshas that make our system. And the Ayurvedic practitioner can actually look at you, examine you through the pulse and other things, and come up with which energy is governing you. You see, when he carries out the detoxification, he's not simply prescribing the same thing for everybody. And that's the beauty of the traditional Indian medicine. One man's meat is another man's poison. It is not the same for everyone. So the Ayurvedic practitioner is going to stipulate what is most suitable to you, for the detoxification process. And that is extremely important. Here's the next thing, as you're seeing on the screen right now. The next thing says there are specific times for detoxification. We can argue that it can be done just about any time. But there are specific times which are more suitable for the process of detoxification. And we are just closing off from one of them, actually, seasonal wise. When the winter changes into spring is considered as an ideal time for detoxification. Why? You see, nature was in slumber in winter. And when we come to the spring, there is an enlivenment. Things are changing. People come out from their seclusion. People come out, flowers are in bloom, nature is in full swing. We see different scents, we see different colors, we see different things happening. So, and the human body, according to Ayurveda, is made according to the same system of nature. Similar elements that make up nature make up our system. So the body is responding in the same way. So according to traditional Indian medicine, they're saying this turnover position, this turnover point from winter to spring is an ideal one for cleansing your system. But I've said before, right, that it's not just taking anything and putting it in your system. The Ayurvedic practitioner will examine, determine what is best for you.